Hi, three wheelers around the world. Wow, we got a show for you tonight, and this is our first episode of Three Wheels Matter Up to Speed. So I hear you say, well, what's up to speed have to do with it? Well, it's a shortened version of our real popular show that we got, Three Wheels Matter, that everybody knows about, right? But this is a shortened little version. And I said, well, you probably say, why? Why do we have a shortened version? Well, for a lot of reasons. For one thing, some of the guys here, they're just in town. And we're going to introduce our first guests that are just in town. And, they're tight for time. So that's one reason. Another reason is that some of the guys, the established guys, they don't want to be on Three Wheels Matter for an hour and a half. They just want to get in and get out and tell us how they're doing, maybe how they did with qualifying at the TT. So, so here we are, and everybody enjoy the show, okay? And go ahead, hit it. Here we are, back again. How do you like that? I like the little coffee deal, right? You guys got coffee?
Yeah,
Show them the cups there. Yeah, where we go. Here we are. Put it right that way there. Yeah, you got it right there.
Why not?
Yeah. And, so I introduce our guests here. We have Shaun and Ben Chandler. Of course, all you guys in the sport know the name Chandlers. And we were talking about that. There's a lot of Chandlers doing racing. They still do racing here, huh? You guys doing a lot of racing? In fact, here we got Ben. Here he's the passenger, and we have the senior dad next to him, Shaun, right? And they got their ambassador t-shirts on there, right?
Yeah, fresh off the press. And the fit.
Yeah,
and the fit.
Yeah, he's a new ambassador we got, right? I did a little video on all the good stuff you get and all the things we do with becoming a three-wheeling ambassador, but we don't want to waste too much time on that. You guys go ahead now and get into it. Tell us what you're doing here now on the island.
This is actually Ben's second weekend, but it's my first weekend. Even though I've done 4 TTs as a passenger, this year will be my first year as a driver, so I'm classed as a newcomer driver. So we're having to come over here, and for myself, it's Carl Bennett's taking me round and showing me the course. And, you know, as a passenger, you probably spend 2/3 of the course curled up in a ball, not looking where you're going, you know. So as a driver, it's completely different now. I'm having to relearn the circuit, and Carl can hopefully give me some good tips and learn from there. But Ben, you're with Lee, aren't you?
Yeah, Lee's taking me around. I was there a couple of weekends ago, and after watching onboard after onboard, especially with TT being cancelled previously, we've had quite a bit more time than other guys to really brush up on the homework and, you know, really get it nailed from home. But coming over here with a couple of weekends ago with Lee, on the onboards, you can't get the elevation changes. You know, the course looks slightly different. A few things have changed. You know, whilst COVID's been and there's been no TT, there's been quite a few changes in and around the circuit. So, you know, he's given us some good advice, some good pointers to, you know, to help you remember certain corners, certain parts of the course. And hopefully tomorrow we'll just really sort of hammer that home and make sure when we come here to set off down Braille, we're ready to go.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Oh, yeah. Well, the adrenaline's pumping here now already with you guys, I can tell. Huh?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it is. It's,
I'm getting excited. Just listen. We had a nice chat before the camera started rolling, right? And we were talking about about the history. I mentioned it, I think just a minute ago. So, all the families we have.
Yeah.
And the families currently that we have with the Chandlers that are racing, and one of the things that interested me too is how you guys can move around between driver and passenger and that. Okay,
Yeah,
you go ahead, tell us. So we're all clear on all the Chandlers.
Well, I
and
mean,
what they're doing.
the Chandler side of it. I mean, it goes right back to, there's myself and Ben, my brother Lee. He used to passenger, and there's my cousins Doug and John Chandler. Well, if you go back into the 60s, my dad and Doug and John's dad used to come over to the TT as spectators and that, and like bring my brothers and that over. So the passion for the TT goes right back to there. So when we actually, eventually started coming over here and actually racing it, it was just a dream come true. It was just one of those things that you'd never. I can remember the first time I went down Bray Hill as a passenger. I actually screamed all the way down it out of excitement because I was that chuffed. I couldn't believe, because I came over here in 1988 as a spectator, and in second year that was actually supposed to be my honeymoon, by the way. I best get that one in. But in 89, the second year here, there was a guy called Mick Stiano, and he was racing, and we used to follow him because he used to have the local bike shop. And we following him, and I was watching him go around, and I said, one day I'm going to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, we just got Ben then, in 1989. He was, a few months old.
Yeah.
So the wife, she put her foot down and says, as long as we got a kid at school, she says, you're not racing. So I says, okay. Then I says, as soon as he leaves school, I'm going to go racing. So I ended up being a late starter because we went on to have 2 more girls after that. So it was actually on my 40th birthday back in 2009 that I actually started racing. So when my daughter left school, I turned around and said, remember what I said? I says, that's it. So Doug and John were racing at the time, and it was actually Mick Stiano who said to me, why don't you have a word with them and go and have a go? And he actually said to me, you won't know it at the time, but you'll love it. Oh, well, that's a strange thing to say. So anyway, I went down, jumped on with John. John was driving at the time. And I jumped on, went round Mallory Park with him. Absolutely scared myself half to death. Got off the bike, and I couldn't wait to get back on again and have another go. I just got that adrenaline rush. And that was it. I knew what he meant then by that, and I was addicted. And then you decided, after I'd been doing it, you thought, well, I want to have a go as well, didn't you?
I used to go and watch every time my dad were racing. I used to go and watch. He started about 1 year before I did, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where if he can do that and do that well, I must be able to do that. If my dad can do it, I must be able to do that. So we at the time, Doug was passengering Nigel Mayers. He'd passengered him at the TT for a couple of years, and Nigel offered to take me out for my first go. He took us round Aintree, and just basically had a steady race. It was a lot quicker than what we went, but he sort of bedded me in slowly. Aintree, there's one left, and everything else is right, so you couldn't go too far wrong. Did a couple of races with Nige, and then fortunate enough to get basically scouted by the Ian Bell team. They contacted me, said Dave Lilly wanted a passenger, would I be interested? And I couldn't believe it, to be honest, because I was a complete novice at the time, and you got people with the Ian Bell name ringing up asking you to go and race with them, especially after all the years of being stood at the side watching these guys go around and idolising them basically. So they took me under the wing. I definitely wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them, but they have people in the team with lots of experience like Ian, Carl, and like Neil Carpenter, who he won the TT with Ian, won the British Championship with Ian as a passenger. He basically taught me from day one, told me where I was going wrong. We didn't always agree, sometimes he'd tell me to do one thing, I'd do another, but he really sort of nurtured me, brought me along, and got me going. Even after years and years of racing with him, he'd always offer his advice, and he'd sort of say, look, this is what I'd do, but take my advice or leave it. I'd sometimes try it and it'd work, sometimes it wouldn't. But, all the guys, all from the whole Ian Bell team, they really looked after us for, 6, 7, 8 years?
Yeah.
Up until 2016, where, the unfortunate happened with Ian, and, everyone took a really deep breath and a step back. And, that's when
we got together, wasn't it?
That's where it all started, really, wasn't it?
Because I did my 4 TTs with a bloke called Jim Noble, and a good friend of his was Dan Clark, who was also a TT racer. Actually, he had a bad crash at the Bedstead, which finished his TT career. And it was actually Dan who came up with the name White Rose Racing, which we race under now.
Oh, yeah.
And I raced with Jim Noble for 9 years, and we did 4 TTs together. And like I say, our team name became White Rose Racing, and unfortunately we came across the crash with Ian Bell, and so I think it knocked the wind out of Jim's sails, and he decided to have some time out and sort of semi-retired. So rather than going, I had a few offers for another ride at the TT and that, and I said to Ben, I says, if I get a bike, would you fancy doing the TT with me? Which Dave never wanted to do, and he wasn't really interested in, but the moment I said that, I said, yeah. So 2017 we went, and Dougie, my cousin, he just happened to have a bike that he was selling at the time, and bought that and never looked back since. But it's been a learning curve. The first day we got the bike into the shed, and we was just going to go down to Mallory, wasn't it, our first time out, and we had to change the clutch. It was a slipper clutch in it, and I said to Ben, I said, right, how would we get this clutch out? And we both just looked at each other. As passengers, both our teams sort of did their own work.
I spent years with Ian
and Jim was the same. He liked to do his own spanner in, so we both looked at each other and said, I don't know. Yeah. So we had to sit on and learn how to spanner, didn't we?
I had years and years of like Ian, people like Keith, Mick, Brian, all those people always used to look after the bike so we could focus on the racing. Yeah. And that day I remember thinking, why didn't I just watch them do some of this stuff on the bike? Watch them change a clutch, learn how to do this. But because they were there,
it was easy. They knew what they were doing.
Spoiled,
It's the simplest thing ever now, isn't it? Now we've got.
But that's what happens with it, doesn't it? On the island, it's like that elsewhere too. A lot of the guys, they do almost everything. Most of them, I'd say.
Yeah.
They do everything. They're
we do everything right from A to Z now, don't we?
Yeah, we don't actually strip the engine completely down, but we'll do everything else, don't we?
We do it all ourselves. We've got great people that come and help, but I think one thing, when we've done the work on the bike, and when you work on your own bike, you take that extra bit of time, extra bit of care, and if
it goes wrong, it's your own fault.
Yeah, you can't turn around and look at anybody else other than yourself. And well, we can look at each other, because I'm sure there might have been times where I might not have tightened up a bolt or something.
You see what it is? This is what it is, fans out there, the ones that are just getting more familiar with the sport. You hear these guys, talking about it, right? So it's a lot more than just like you guys are saying, and just hopping on the bike. Knowing the bike, and then you're gone like some factory built thing. You know what I mean? It's not anything like that at all. You guys, and it's so specialized too. The Sidecar racing.
Anything off the shelf. There's nothing off the shelf that fits.
It's all bespoke. It's all specially made, and
everything. But
it took a lot of learning.
Even tweaking it, and the road racing.
Yeah.
The roads are all different, right? So this what makes our sport, I think, intriguing. Very interesting. If you like motorsport, you come to the right place, because there's nothing like it, really.
No,
there's nothing like it.
No.
And you're like artisans almost. It's like an art almost, and on knowing how to tweak every little bit and piece on those
and
bikes.
We've learned a lot the hard way, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's like the Southern 100 video. Yourself, you showed a bit of video where the back end of the bike's picking up into the corner at the Southern 100. That was our first ever Southern 100. And we just thought, we went out. I mean, our passion is road racing.
Yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, the best quote I've ever heard is short circuit racing is like rock climbing with ropes, whereas road racing is rock free climbing. You know, you're going out there and there's no room for error. You've got, and it
No
just
gravel
gives you,
track.
it's
It's
just,
exciting, though, huh?
yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Well, that's the
absolutely
reason
love
why you
it.
guys.
Yeah.
But I tell
Yeah.
you what, though, this is for you two, right? And giving us a background, etc. You know, did a
Yeah.
great job with explaining all of this and everything. But boy, you guys must be excited.
Yeah.
This is like really
The pinnacle.
big time here,
Yeah,
isn't
I mean,
it? And getting out there, Dad getting on the bars, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
You
it-
get
and
out
it's
there,
just-
right, young
I wouldn't do the. I wouldn't have. I've been had offers before to do the TT race, for, for quite a long time now, but it's never quite happened, or I've never had somebody that I've had all that confidence in to go and do it. If I can't go and do it with my dad, it's never going to happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's quite a big thing. It's the pinnacle of road racing.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's the biggest
Yeah.
event, and going back to like the preparation, I think you
The
spend
Southern 100 was the biggest learning curve for us, wasn't it?
yeah, definitely.
We went out and we thought the bike was, when we was braking hard into the corners, the wheels were shaking all over, and and like I say, we were bouncing up in the air, and we just thought that must be how it is. And when we got back, there was a photo, somebody had put a picture on at Stadium Corner and it said the Chandlers with the back end of the bike stepped out. Well, we just thought that's how it was. And it wasn't until
left-hand
after the
drifting.
race. I mean, we managed to get a top 10 finish in our first ever year there. And so we were chuffed to bits. And then we didn't find out while afterwards, we had the totally wrong setup on the bike. So ever since, we've been dying to get back, and then the COVID came along and cancelled
Oh,
it.
yeah.
So now we've learned a lot more now about the setup of the bike. So we'd love to get back to the
let's hope
Southern 100.
we have good weather.
Yeah.
Fingers
for
crossed.
qualifying.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, as many laps as possible.
The 2019 was the last TT,
Yeah.
right? And I felt bad for a lot of the guys, and it was no one's fault, obviously. It's the
No,
weather,
it's
weather,
just-
but
yeah.
a lot of them couldn't, particularly novices trying to learn the circuit.
Well, that's the thing, you need as many laps.
But like you said, you know about it, Dad. You
Yeah.
know about it, but you don't.
I'm gonna say
Right?
the number of times when I was a passenger, and you'd get onto Glencrutchery Road, getting all ready to go, and you'd be getting that buzz, getting all ready, and then just say, "Oh, sorry, practice is cancelled."
Oh yeah.
And then you'd be just pushing, you'd be gutted, you'd be pushing the bike back down, and it'd be fog had moved in on the mountain or something like that. It's
Proper
it's-
roller coaster of emotions at
Yeah,
the
it is,
TT
yeah.
week. It's
Oh yeah.
especially spend a lot of time in the paddock, a lot of time, close knit with everybody else, and I think that's why it gets called the Sidecar family, because everyone's in and out of each other's tents, but it's like a roller coaster. I haven't actually raced there yet, but I've always been here when my dad has, and you get the adrenaline. The adrenaline's starting to go and everything. It just goes, and then it's cancelled, boom, and up again and down.
Yeah. And then you start getting paddock fever. Then
Yeah,
you
then-
need to
yeah.
get out of the paddock for a bit. And
Yeah, but it really is a roller coaster, isn't it?
I'm going to say
Emotionally.
one year, I remember his mum was making Yorkshire puddings for lunch, and she'd run out of plain flour, and she asked the next pitch, I can't remember which team it was at side of us, if they had any plain flour. And next thing, we were stood outside having a smoke, and it went from pitch to pitch to pitch, right down the paddocks.
Whoa.
Chandlers need some flour. Has anyone got any flour?
Oh,
And it
yeah.
were miles down when somebody goes, I've got some.
Yeah.
Way
We'd
down
only
there.
ask one person.
Yeah.
These things we've got to catch that. I'd like to have that one on film.
Yeah, that'd have been
that
great,
would
wouldn't
be
it? Yeah,
great.
it would,
But
wouldn't
we're going to be out there
Yeah.
at TT because we're the we're the title sponsor of both TT races, but we're also the official Sidecar media partner. So we're going to be out and about. Maybe we'll catch some of that. We'll get a flower.
Yeah, get down to our end of that. Yeah.
I have to brag a little bit, right, about our guys out there, our crew.
Yeah.
So they catch it on film. That's one thing. That's that you need to have, obviously. That's step one. But step number two is that the editing is superb.
Yeah.
That's what makes it. I think
Yeah.
that's what does
It is. It's fantastic,
the thing.
isn't it? Yeah.
With our videos, and they're different too, and
Yeah.
we're informal. You didn't even see a microphone.
Yeah.
Hand mic.
Yeah.
I don't have it against them, But I like the informal style.
Yeah,
Well, we just
definitely.
going and chatting about like we're doing now when we did out there.
But it just
Right.
shows what freewheeling's bringing to the sport. We've never
Yeah.
had that.
But that's
never
what
had
it
that.
is. It's more natural,
Yeah.
isn't it? Right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things three wheeling bring to sport is you're talking to the teams who like ourselves. We're a self-funded team. We have no backing whatsoever. You know, basically what we can afford, and we go out there and do it. I mean, if you saw my workshop, it's just in a little garden shed.
Yeah.
You know, that is my workshop, and like Steve yourself come to talk to us. Well, you know, other TV crews and everything not interested in us. You know, they just want the big teams and go and talk to them. So it's
The
nice.
guys have already got the big sponsorship deals and things like
Yeah.
that in place,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, people like us.
Everyone
don't-
gets a
don't
say
tend to
now.
get the coverage. Yeah,
that's
it's nice.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, we cover all the top guys, obviously.
Yeah.
But you know, and they do get a bit more press because they deserve it.
exactly.
They're up
Yes,
on
they do.
top.
Of course
Yeah.
they do,
And
yeah.
you guys are working up there, but it's a
Yeah.
lot more than that.
Yeah,
That's what I was
there's not
saying. I was
just them,
saying
is
that
there? Yeah.
we catch the essence of the sport. And
Yeah.
and it's who is the sport? It's the people in the sport that make the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so good.
And it doesn't matter whether the person who's finishing at the front all the time or the person finishing near the rear of the field. Everybody's giving 100%. They're
They
giving
all
everything.
have their own stories.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? The guys down in the back, sometimes their stories are more interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
The
it's
guys
like-
at the top might say, well, I had this guy, that guy, the bike's all set up okay.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think
well-
one of the big things with the sidecar paddock is it doesn't matter whether it's the guy at the front or the guy at the back. They're all willing to help you.
Yeah.
It don't- You know, it's like there's Matty on there. There's Matty and his dad who the Ramsdens. I mean, they've given us so much good advice in the past.
Yeah.
And they've always got time for you, haven't they?
Even people like Tim Reeves, the first time
Yeah.
we turned up at the Southern 100 and we'd just bought a new oil cooler, and it was something that we hadn't fitted to the bike before. It was different to what we'd ever had before.
We had to get we couldn't get the fittings until we got here. could we?
Yeah, we couldn't actually get the fittings until we got here. So literally, we were walking past Tim Reeves' tent. We looked across, and he had the exact same oil cooler on his bike. This is something, completely different concept to what we were used to. Straight into Tim's, right, Tim, what's the best place to put this?
Oh, yeah.
Where would you put this on our bike? And he, right through the paddock, you can walk in anybody's tent, and anyone will help anybody.
John Holden. He spent a lot of time in our tent. Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
Oh, yeah,
Change that,
they
you know,
do.
and just giving us good advice.
John's been brilliant, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Fiona.
These are the top guys, really.
Conrad's another
Two of
one,
the
isn't
best.
he? He's-
Yeah,
Conrad Harrison, he's another
He
one.
only lives over the hill from us, does Conrad.
And Conrad's another one.
Yeah.
But he's good. I like the video we did when he won the TT. I like that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have to have Conrad on the show, don't you think?
Oh,
Yeah, definitely. He's got to get on.
yeah.
Be a good laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even we've been struggling to get a part quite close to a race. I think it was Wednesday. We were setting off on the Friday, and we put something out on Facebook. We were struggling for an oil pickup, and even Conrad, who only lives over the hill, he says, I've got one in the toolbox. You can have it. Just come get it. And everyone helps everyone. Like I say, it's back to that sidecar family.
But it's even like Jim Noble that I race with, Dan Clark, next TT race, like we mentioned earlier. They come wherever they can and help us out. Because a lot of time it's just me and Ben sat in the tent, working on the bike. But I remember Dan one day, we were every race we'd be there mucking about with the bike, and he just said, "Look, just leave the bike alone, just go and learn how to ride it." And and that was one of the best bits of advice I've ever been given.
Just get on and ride it.
Yeah,
That
so
was-
just get on and ride it, get your laps in and ride it, and learn how to ride it. And it turned out to be brilliant advice, didn't it?
Yeah. But
It wasn't the bike's fault I was going slow. It was my fault.
needed to line the throttle a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to do with your dad, is it? And,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
same thing with
His mum
your
doesn't
son.
think
So.
so.
You're kind of going through the ups and downs together. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, mum thinks slightly differently, don't she? It was
Yeah.
bad enough when we were both on separate bikes in the same race.
Yeah.
Now we're
Now
both
we're
on
on
the
one.
same bike.
Oh yeah.
I think if I ever crashed and hurt him, I don't think
yeah.
she'd ever. I wouldn't dare go home.
Yeah, just don't go home.
That's one thing about it is though too. I notice I've seen this plenty of times. Right? Is like families and very close friends and examples that you were just saying is that You know, it's just the big Sidecar family, everybody helping each other,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. But as soon as the race starts, bang,
Yeah,
you
it's
guys are
diff-
going
yeah, it's different
for it.
than it.
You
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
going to win.
You can
know?
apologise. You can apologise at end of race, can't
Yeah,
you?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, work
Yeah.
work it out
I think
afterwards.
sometimes you get caught up in it, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, like you know, maybe you got a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, you'll stand there giving thumbs up and shaking hands
Yeah.
before you start
Well,
race. But the moment that red light goes out, that's it.
When,
Yeah.
what they say, when the flag drops, the stops. That's
Yeah.
all.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But at the end of the day, because you get to know these guys really well, you know, because we are all quite close on internet, you know you can ride right on the back wheel. You know who you're racing against.
Or side by side round
Or
the corner.
side, yeah,
Yeah,
many a time side by side, and you know they're not going to do something stupid. You know, you're going around Scarborough. It's so narrow, and there's big drop offs and everything else, and you're two abreast, and there isn't really room for two sidecars going around there. But you're happy to ride two abreast,
Side, yeah.
because you've got to have that level of trust with all your other competitors as well. You know,
Yeah.
it's when you're out on track and you're riding wheel to wheel, your life's in their hands as much as my life's in his hands.
Yeah, if they suddenly do something stupid, you can run into them, aren't you? You know.
You don't race to come second, do you?
No.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can remember.
This is really. I'm getting excited for you. This is big. This is a big thing here. Going out there on the TT,
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's Bruce Moore in there. He has his lad on. There's, the
Ash,
Ramsdens. Father something. I think it must be a good bond because it seems to work with a few teams, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember him, Dave Wells, who sadly lost his life down it. Yeah, and I mean, when I was starting out passengering, like I said, I'd been following the TT for a lot of years, and I was watching Dave, and
He was the
I
guy,
just
wasn't he?
admired the way that he passengered, his style, and it made sense to me how he worked because he used the chair handle and he used his body weight a lot.
Don't see that much now.
No,
do
you don't. So when I started passengering, I sort of tried to mimic how Dave did because it made sense. And then when you started passengering, you did the same, didn't you? So now as a driver, because Ben passengers the same way as I used to do, I don't even have to think about him because I know what he's doing because he'd be doing exactly what I'm doing. So I can just concentrate on.
you guys
riding.
have the bike you had down at the Southern. Is that the same bike you're going to have?
It's the same bike, but it went back to Tony Baker because it's a Baker bike, and it went back to Tony at the end of 2020, ready for the TT. So he had it over Christmas 2020, and we basically said to him, "Do we need to go and buy a new bike, or is this one good enough to do the TT?" So he took it back, took it home, and he put it all onto the jig and everything. And we were lucky; it's never ever been crashed. He checked all the tubing. It's
Straight as the day he built it, wasn't
and
it?
it's as clean as the day he built it. And then he just modernised it for us. The bits that needed modernising to bring it up to spec. Yeah. So we basically kept the same bike, but it's now been brought up to today's standards.
Yeah, he
The only thing we don't have,
didn't he?
the main thing we don't have an adjustable chair wheel.
Oh.
I think we're probably one of the only bikes out there now without adjustable chair wheel.
Oh.
But we just thought we'll stick to the solid chair wheel because it's only something that confuses.
It goes around, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does its job, and
All this, towing it in a little bit to make it do this, make it. We haven't got that. I've basically got to throw it in.
Tony made a cracking job on it, though, didn't he? He's basically completely overhauled the whole bike.
Yeah, so it's
And
basically a brand new bike, really.
Well, you guys are going to know a lot more once you get past. You get through, you get on you qualify,
Yeah,
and you get out there. You're going to know a lot more
yeah, and it's
on everything.
yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, we're both the same. We're not chancers. I'm one of these people who'll build up. So we're just going to go out, do our own thing. Hopefully, we'll qualify.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take any daft chances and try and push it to get that qualifying speed. We'll just try and build it up and see how we go.
There's always another year.
Exactly.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah, every time you go out, you're learning something new, and hopefully, just knock us on that bit more.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Methodical approach is probably the best way of putting it, isn't it?
Yeah. We spend a lot of time talking a good race, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah,
we'll
definitely.
get all excited about TT and all this, and we'll stay connected on social media.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
That's
Thank you
right.
very much.
Yeah. So
That's
everybody.
great.
So before we depart, remember, like we always have to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Never got
guys.
doing it. Yeah.
All right. Three wheeling. By the sport, for the sport.